Wow.
Of his life.
Oh my goodness.
It's Saturday night and we're going large in the chess world. Does it get better than Danya, king of the puns, Robert Hess, the man who invented the game on commentary, a Kramnik scandal on the way, and the most overpowered team right now, India, taking on USA. We've got the World Chess Championship challenger, 18-year-old Gukesh D against Fabi C. He's world number 2, playing for the USA. Gukesh kicks off with d4. What a game. The entire chess world reeling right now. All to come. Fabi goes knight f6. c4 explodes the board. e6 and g3. Look at Alan in the corner. Our favourite chess playing cat. Purring away. Loves this opening. Named after him. The Catalan. We now see pawn d5. That's my wife shutting the door, telling me to shut up. Now we see bishop g2. And these are the most common moves on the board here for black, but none of them played by Fabi at all. He goes full Magnus Carlsen, sideline baby, brings that one out to c6 here. Okay, knight f3 comes, and now normally in this sideline you take on c4, but no, Fabi's been cooking this up in Silicon Valley, plays the mysterious rook move. Great way to freak out your opponent, right? Play a random rook move here, and this is why he goes deep on the weekends, dressed as a centaur as he does, taking stock barnacle to depth 79 to win that 15 minutes on the clock as he's just done. Gukesh finally takes on d5. You know, should he go knight bd2, b3? Different options available when Fabi didn't go main line, but he goes for this. Fabi flicks in the check with a whoosh. Now we see the knight blocking the way, and the pawn takes back on d5. Where does the bishop go? f4, g5, do you castle? This is the subtle stuff they love at the elite level. We're just sticking with the game, not getting deep on theory. We get h6, attacking the bishop. That's the level of commentary you get here on Septic Cheese. And now we see takes on f6, queen recaptures. You'd love to take on d5, but there's a problem, a pin. So the king castles, and now with the threat to take on d5, you've got to respond. Bishop e6, apparently good according to the Silicon Overlord, but this one played by Fabi, also decent. Who are we to question one of the kings of prep in the modern age? He gives up his bishops, changes the pawn structure, calmly castles the king. No doubt he's had this at home on the analysis board, Christian looking on. Now we see knight d2, opening the eyes of the bishop. Bishop e6 can be played once again, but instead we see knight e7. Has Fabi forgot which way to move his pieces? Well, he's freed up this pawn now, right? Covers the center with the knight. It's rotating. You can go e4 immediately, apparently quite good, but e3 played, setting up the old dromedary camel pawn formation. Now bishop e6, queen a4, probing, and Fabi calmly goes a6, defending that one, and now we finally see the game exploding into life here. Do you go c4, e4? Well, this one looking the best, right? You don't want to be running into b5 after pawn c4. So this was played, and now it just kicks off. You can go pawn to c ships here, of course, defend the centre, but Fabi's got way more aggressive intentions in mind. He doesn't instead do that, but plays this move, advancing it 2 steps. He leans forward, whispers YOLO, and everything now is just nuts. You know, why not take this pawn? Let's first analyse that. Well, then this one becomes critically weak. All the black pieces start flowing into the game. It is a playable line though, so we didn't see takes here. You can advance, also looks really natural, good move, but even stronger, absolute top move, queen a3. Reminds me of some Fischer game way back in the day, can't remember which one, maybe in the Spassky match or something. Really nice idea, coming onto the dark squares and setting a cunning trap. If you take here, this is the follow-up. You don't recapture, right? The queen's on the square. You go e5. Hang on a second, isn't that impossible? Now the knight drops, the queen was overloaded. Truly exceptional lines. And if you go here to stay with the knight, Well, then pick your poison. There's f4 or knight f3. You can't stay with the knight right, and it drops off the board. Really cool depth of vision by Gukesh D. So we see b6 played instead. We're not going to go down too many rabbit holes here. It's so complex. But one thing to ask, can you not take? Double win a pawn. Well, again, there's rook fc8. Big problems with this one. Not ideal. So instead, we see the move of rook a to b1, pressuring down here now. Sorry, I got a fly on my screen. I have the lights on and it attracts in a fly through the window and stuff like that. They love the light. So rook a b1, pressures b6 here. And what do we see in response? Again, you can do something with tension in the center and everything, but Fabi does this, overprotecting the knight on e7, and now we see takes on c5. e5 playable, so many rich lines, we're not going to get lost in it. Fabi now could take here on c5, something about the line he didn't like. Instead, he mixes it up and goes pawn d4. Real sign of his intentions. USA are chasing India in the tournament. They want to win this match. Now you can take on d4, queen recaptures, different game, or you can take on b6, either one of these ways, and then the pawn can take here on c3. What's going on there? So rich, so complex, none of it played. Gukesh goes for c4, closing the position, and it allows Fabi this queen g5 move, double hit on the unprotected knight on d2 and pawn. So after that one's defended, now you can win back a pawn. How to do it? Well, the best way here is queen takes on c5. Yes, this one drops over here, but now you go d3. There's ideas of rotating the knight into the attack, and so although you're down a pawn, there's big play for black. But this wasn't selected. Fabi instead goes pawn takes on c5, solidifies on d4, yes, but he rumbles into f4, banging down the door. Tempo picked up on the queen. Why does it come here? Well, it holds this pawn. That is legitimately going to drop if you're not careful. Then d4 is weak, but now there's f5, and the game's going nuts. If you play the obvious move, bishop d7, save that piece, well, now simply you can take on c5, or start with knight f3 to stop any weird queen tricks, then take the pawn soon at your leisure. It's really bad for black. So that's why Fabi has prepared the following: queen e2, takes, now queen e2, getting a step ahead of myself, too excited, and although he attacks the knight, he also attacks the pawn on c4, which is why you can't defend that knight, you can't move that knight, or the bishop takes on c4. That's why we see the exchange of these minor pieces. Now takes here with check, king recaptures, and this pawn drops off the board. Gukesh here is a pawn ahead. The king steps back. The rook comes to the f-file, but Fabi is eyeing up huge counterplay with the knight rotating via g6 or c6 if you could arrange it into the e5 square, blockading the bishop, killing it, pass pawn running, very double-edged, huge compensation. And that's why we now get king h7 to support knight g6. If you did it immediately, you were running into queen c6, double attack on loose pieces. This one therefore prepares it. We get queen e5, great move, pinning that knight to the rook. So check is now played, king h1 and d3. The pawn's running. It's really dangerous. And what to say, they're low on time. This has got to be some of the classiest chess we've seen in the entire tournament. How would you start freeing up the pieces here? What would you do? If you go bishop f3 to look at this square, you run into these rook f8, really nasty tactics. The pawn's coming fast. If the rook slides over, there's queen e2, etc. Gukesh comes up with bishop h3. It really is just an exceptional maneuver, low on time, because after d2, now where do you go? There's only one move here to keep a balance, and it's this bishop g4, stunning shot. You've remaneuvered onto the most important diagonal, covering the queening square, covering the queen from invading to these important ones, and after queen d3, hitting the rook, preparing the promotion, now there's king g2, the square vacated by the bishop. Tiptoeing, walking this tightrope, incredible timing. The pawn now drops on c4, the a pawn under fire. Gukesh goes a4, a3, apparently a bit more precise, which is understandable. And Fabi, now top move is to take this pawn here, because although you allow rook f7, threatening mate, you can cover it with the rook. Yes, drop a knight, however you want to take it, but then win back the minor piece. This should be headed towards a draw. But this one not taken. Queen c6 played. Also a great move. Does keep a balance, but now things get weirder. The rook's defended. e4's eyeballed. Therefore there's a threat to go knight g6. So that's why Gukesh jumps out the way with queen d4. And now Fabi still should go knight g6. Something about the variation spooked him on this move. Maybe it was the immediate drop and he wasn't seeing enough counterplay here. I don't know. Is this the move or king h3? Both playable. I don't know. Something he didn't like. Or maybe an earlier bishop f5 pinning. But he doesn't play it. This one here. He plays a blunder, queen to g6. But it is so not obvious why this is a blunder. Because if you move the bishop, it is attacked, right? Say you drop back. Then you get knight c6 with tempo. Pawn drops, but now this can come. Or even you take first with check, then knight e5. You're getting the counterplay you want, the material's restored. And if you defend like this, still you can kick away, still the knight rotates. Or you can play like this, but let's say this one, etc. But none of it done. Instead we see the stunning move, low on time, rook to f4.
Wow.
Of his life!
Oh my goodness, Gukesh. This guy, he's a teenager, but he is incredible. The way he spots these tactics, the way he beat Wei Yi a couple rounds ago. Danya, rook f4 is such a nice spot.
Listen, people say, how is Gukesh, so good? What makes him so good? It's actually pretty simple. He's very good at finding the best move in the position.
The commentary team absolutely beside themselves over this one, and we're beside ourselves that we've got this footage on camera core because Chess Base India can still film, despite the best efforts of the biggest joke in chess right now, Vladimir Kramnik. Yes, the gloves are off on this channel now. He went after Sagar Shah, out of order. They're playing by the rules, and what we haven't seen yet is this actual behind the scenes leaked footage of the chief arbiter responding to Kramnik's initial complaint.
Take care now. Bye-bye then.
Great to see it getting chucked out. Absolutely ridiculous. Now we see queen g5 on the board and Fabi is just crumbling. This is his Achilles hoof. He doesn't do well, low on time. Now if you take the pawn, there is some knight g6 trickery. Can get a bit weird. The rook's defending the bishop. There's pins to the queen and stuff like that. Also the king's in the line, so there can sometimes be checks here with the knight. But Gukesh, far too good. He goes h4. You're not playing Gukesh d today, you're playing Gukesh a. This queen now retreats, the pawn drops, and that's 2 to the good. Rook comes to b8, hoping for some invasion, but even cooler, just calculating like a Terminator machine, queen d7. So what if you check me? I hide on h2, or h3 rather. So Fabi goes h5, saying take my knight, I'll take your guy here. So Gukesh saves the bishop, but again doesn't go bishop f3, top move, but more passive, arguably, slightly. He goes bishop e6, a much more active move, but well calculated move. Now we see rook b6, trying to take a piece, so bishop f7, and you're in a bind. The queen's attacked, so is the knight, so this has to be played to save a minor piece, but now you just trade them off, a la Magnus. Now this pawn drops, that's 2 to the good. What to say, these were the finishing touches on a truly remarkable game. You don't just take down the world number 2 for fun, and you don't just do this at a chess olympiad for giggles, right? This is what Gukesh has done. 8 out of 9 now. Look at some of those opponents he's taken down. Arjun doing the same. I mean, this next generation coming through from India. Wow, they're going to take some stopping. Hope you enjoyed this one. India sitting pretty on top now. They took down USA. And if you want to see another incredible game, check out the video on screen. And I hope to see you again soon. Cheers.